Hi everyone, we're back again this week with the fandom of Shorinoki Ki Kahani. We have with us, Shreya's back. Welcome back, Shreya.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miral, for having me back.
And also, we have the rest of the gang. We have Manushi, Sumi, Supriya, also back in the room, as usual. And of course, leader of the gang again, Shreya. We really missed you, Shreya, last time.
Yeah, I missed having our conversation. Like the weekly conversation is like, what do you say? It's like my junk for the week. You know
It is,
that
isn't it?
everything.
Isn't it? So we decided we're going to talk about, of course, the very, very important topic of Shora and Noki's wedding, right? We've been waiting for this wedding for a very long time, even though we know they got married in the temple, which is, according to Hindu Marriage Act, a valid marriage. But they are getting married with all the pomp and show and twists and turns right now. This week was their entire wedding week, and I guess the next week is also going to be the entire festivities of the wedding, and of course the wedding itself. We know that's going to happen because we saw the segment on the spoiler segment earlier today. Your today and my early morning, right? So we're going to talk about the Indian wedding today, and sometimes for the women, the family of the girls, it is a harrowing experience in India. Why is it a harrowing experience? The Indian wedding is colorful, it's cacophonous, it's an occasion often marked by hundreds, if not thousands, of guests, lavish banquets, and venues, and brides and grooms are kitted out in eye popping costumes and jewelry. Some 10 million weddings take place every year, and the market size of this weddings is almost $50 billion. And I remember during the pandemic when I asked a lot of friends back and family back in India, said, what is the biggest market right now for that we should address in a pandemic and for innovation? And everybody said weddings, and I said how? And I said, Zoom weddings. It is such an amazing thing to do. But there's so much more that you can do with it. Experiences, wedding experiences, remote wedding experiences. What else can you do with it? Can you make the events more interactive? Can you do more VR into it? Can you add more AR into it? And as a technologist, of course, we can do so much more with it. But is this what you gotta do? People take loans that come at an astronomical interest rate, indebting families for life. Weddings have been called off. Um, Brides have been driven, and the parents have been driven to commit suicide due to fear of social opprobrium, harassment over dowry, money, and other goods demanded by groom's family. It's a practice that's officially illegal in India but still continues, and it's led to deaths and suicides. The weddings of the wealthy, the trappings of social traditions. We've seen Seema Auntie on Netflix, and then we've seen that entire series about weddings of the socially able. So we've seen how social tradition and how the entrenched practices of dowry have put immense pressure on the middle class people and poor families. But then social initiatives that we hope to change are always there. We're hoping stories like Shora and Oki will help us change some of the narrative, right? That's why we are here talking about it today. And we have the fandom here talking about that too. So Shreya, tell us what happened this week. Let's start with that.
So this week I called it 2 minutes heart change of Mr. Ramesh Bhalla, who started out as Amrish Puri in the beginning episode, and now he's turned totally Alok Kumar. Sorry, what is it? Alok Nath. Alok Nath in the run up to the wedding. So he has finally got to know about Bubbly's divorce,
Mhm.
impending divorce, and he has given his blessing for the same. And then, because of everything else, like the wedding drama is happening, Tej has played his cards. Like he had been holding it close to his heart, chest, and Devi and Tej have fired. They pretended in front of Shaurya that they have accepted the alliance, but Tej played such a master card, by preponing Anokhi's examination that she had to, like she was in such a fix, but thankfully Shaurya, being the supportive husband, has and professor, has, like, supported her decision, and like given her the autonomy to go and get take her exams, prioritizing her education before her wedding. So which was the highlight and the crux of the show, that how he started out as a misogynist, and now how he's playing that supportive husband who's standing up for his wife and her education and her career. So, like, this was the synopsis for the whole week, I guess.
Wow, that's quite a story. That's quite a change in Sharia. I want to start with this entire culture of extravagance, which I just don't seem to get over. Which I know I've been to these weddings, my family, friends, my own extended circle. This just can't get over. I mean, I just can't get over it. I remember the 2018 wedding of Isha Ambani. Oh my God, it was rumored to be what, $100 million, multiple
Yeah.
destinations, celebrations. The whole world was watching it. Beyonce turned up, and Hillary Clinton went there. It dominated the news cycle the world over for many, many, many days. But hey, what is it about these weddings? Why do people in India spend so much time, effort, money doing this entire, thing? And then you're right. Soon after that, there was this Priyanka Chopra Nick Jonas affair, which was for the fairy tales, right? So, what is it about extravagance and weddings that is so that's such a fairy tale for us, that for a country like India, which ranks 94th in out of the 107 assessed countries in global hunger index, for God's sake. This is serious. We're seriously hungry. We're literally 94 out of 107 assessed countries in global world hunger index. We're around 14% of Indians are undernourished. 34.7% of children under the age of five are stunted. For God's sake, the wealthiest 1% hold four times the wealth held by 70% of the population. So 953 million people are poor in that country, and we're hosting these weddings. How does it look, even? How does it make us look as people? But having said that, how do we even justify that in our society? Let's start with you, Manashi.
About the extravagance and the factors that weddings offer, I believe wedding is a personal affair where two people are uniting for life, and it should be limited to only just being a happy affair rather than just being all pomp and show off and all those things that happen around weddings. But then again, at the same time, the Indian parents से एक ही बार तो शादी होनी है, तो एक ही बार में सब कर लेते हैं। हमारा बेटे की फर्स्ट वेडिंग एज इन कि हमारे बेटे की शादी है, हम तो ये करेंगे, हम तो वो करेंगे। पेरेंट्स हैव ऑल सच अरमान्स that keep popping up ke we want to do this and we want to do that and so forth so on. जैसे we saw in Shaurya Anokhi की कहानी के for Shaurya's wedding, everyone was like, oh my god, we want this decor and that decor, at least the Sabharwals, not Astha and Shan and everyone, because they just wanted it to be a simple affair. But Alok and everyone was like, ये तो हमने reject किया था यश की शादी में, and such tantrums. So I would really want to know that what is it about the weddings that you want to be the highlight for showing off? Ki, yeah, oh yeah, the wedding has to be about the bride and the groom and not about the decor or not about the khana or anything else that is there in the wedding. Why would you want to highlight that? Ke, oh my god, ke जैसे अनोखी's mom said that dialogue कि wedding में तीन चीजें हमेशा याद रखी जाती है, वेडिंग का खाना, वेडिंग में आए हुए लोग, एंड देन वेडिंग में हुआ तमाशा. So it's like why would you want to ridicule a girl's family कि भाई तुमने ये नहीं किया, तुम्हारे खाने में तो ये नुक्स है, इसमें ये है, इसमें वो है. Why would you want to do that? I mean, what's the whole point of doing that? Wedding has to be a happy affair. Why would you want to bring such malice things in the whole picture at the first place.
So, Sumi, what do you say to that? Are you for it? Are you against it? What makes you, what justifies this for our society as a whole? Should we not be, as a society, shunning this and looking down upon people who do this?
Extravaganza in marriage is actually, it's like a show off of the status. Basically, it's like the people try to show how much money do they have, how much influence do they have. More rich family uh, uh, of the bride or the groom, the more extravaganza they'll do. It's always been like that. It's one of those social uh, it's not really evil, but it's one of those social acts which should be shunned, which at least should not be encouraged, because that money can be used for a lot of things in society. Basic necessity is important. Yes, have a marriage, invite all your family, all your friends, do it lavishly. But spending, suppose 10 rupees for a thing which can be done for 1 rupee is waste of money. It's like that. So people associate marriages with status. That is the crux of the problem. What I feel. If suppose a well-to-do family does a very simple wedding, people will always ask, what is wrong with you financially? Why are you not spending on your daughter or your son? You have only one child, or you have only two children, whatever it is. So if parents are not spending, people somehow associate their intentions or their happiness with the how grand a wedding is. It is some weird correlation that has been brought, that has come up in our society. If even if suppose even if the family of the bride is not that well to do, and suppose even the groom says that, okay, don't spend much money, it's okay for us to have a simple wedding. Like suppose in this case, in Shaurya and Anokhi, Shaurya tells Anokhi's mother, right, don't spend money, it's okay. But the bride's family will feel that, something is lacking on our part if we are not doing our, this is their duty, they take it as their duty. So it's a very complex mixture of uh, relationships and ideas that have grown for so many years in our Indian society. That is how people, they take it as a statement of their love and their consent and their status. They take that whole wedding function as that. So it's like you're being judged on that. You're being judged on how beautiful the decor is. You're being judged what kind of items you have given in the food. If it's only very simple, why have you not spent money on your son's marriage and your daughter's
So,
marriage?
so why are we being judged in all those material things? Why aren't we being judged in the people that we are? Supriya, why can't we change? How do we change the judgment from all these material things to judgment on what kind of a person are you? What kind of a partner are you going to be? What kind of a mother-in-law or father-in-law? What's the quality of the person that you are? How do we make that seismic shift in our society? Any ideas?
So the first thing, when we want to make a seismic shift, when you're looking for a partner, especially in arranged marriages, what people look at is what is the family, what's the family status, what is the family members around. Oh, I know these people. So I remember my mother used to ask, people that I'm okay, fine, this family is good. It has a very good status and a very high status, but can you please tell me something about the bridegroom? Because I want to know more about the bridegroom, what type of a partner he will be for my daughter, what type of a person he will be for my daughter. I don't care about the family because at the end of the day, it is these two people who have to live. So when we want to really make a shift, it's like parents also have to move away from the status of the family, or how well-to-do family it is, and the connections say, oh, this family is very good, this family is amazing, to how good the partner is, because it's not necessary that the partner may be equally good or he is a good person with good this thing. So that shift has to be made mentally for the parents. And if the parents start making that shift and start giving that choice to the girl, because what happens in many of these arranged marriages, I've been told, I mean, I have faced this myself, like, oh, she cannot have so many choices. If she goes and meets a guy and she rejects, then it's not considered good. It's not considered awesome. But the guy can come and reject the girl, but the girl can't reject the guy. And it has happened. So there has to be a very big fundamental shift on the parents who especially of the girls' parents, because what happens is most of the time they're bogged down by the fact that if we don't do anything amazing, like let's say if the in-laws have asked us for granted, if the in-laws have asked us for some material things and all, if we don't give up to that, then my girl will suffer throughout her life. So they are like worried, that my girl will get all the taunts from the family. So they start thinking, okay, let me fulfill it. And many times they may fulfill it at the back of the girl. So the girl may not be even aware what is happening behind the scenes in the marriage, because they don't want to trouble their child. And even the in-laws side, the bridegroom may be a very nice guy, so he may not be aware of what is the issues happening. So, but then he will also be oblivion. So when we want to shift, I think both the bride and the bridegroom need to take the power into their hands and slowly bargain with the parents that this is a personal invite, personal wedding. This is how we want. This is how we are looking at. We,
Sure,
Manoj,
what
you
do you
had
think?
something.
Yes, so about the justification part, like if being a poor country, see, about it's not about being poor or rich. Even if you're like not well to do, some people will want a grand wedding for their daughter or for themselves. Like I know because of the social media thing on Instagram, when you scroll down, you'll see hundred of grand wedding photographs and lehenga pictures, and you will want it. Everyone wants to be a Sabyasachi bride, knowing well what Sabyasachi charges. Like I know for a fact that if you look for any bride, anything which has bride in it, like the amount of the money they charge becomes 10 times the charge for the normal person. So anyway, of weddings are in general becoming unaffordable for the masses. Now, because of the pandemic, people have realized that you can also have small intimate wedding and have fun. So what happens is when you have a large, big wedding, like 1500, 2000 logo, if you're having wedding, I don't think the bride and groom themselves are having fun. That is just for the society thing. So if you have a small 100, 150, 200 people max wedding, that is a new concept for the Indians. And I think because of the pandemic, people are slowly catching up to the concept. Okay, now acha, we can have smaller weddings and we can also have fun in those weddings. We don't need to invite our, hairdresser to our weddings, which we used to do it before the pandemic. So because of so it's in a way, this pandemic has been blessing in disguise. Like we can not call our extended family, which we hate anyways. So so I think this wedding thing has like first what used to happen was same like before the pandemic, if your parents have been to 100 wedding, they'll want to invite those 100 people to their wedding. Can they have invited you, so you have to invite them. That becomes a vicious circle. And if you don't get invited, you are socially ostracized. That these people, they are very snobby and obnoxious because they have food at your wedding and they don't invite you. So because of that pressure, people used to have grand lavish weddings. I don't think that's the case anymore because of the restrictions. So I think, and also like when for my case also, like that had conversation had popped up that if we want to go, get for court marriages and register ourselves rather than having a, even 200 people wedding. We did try it, but I'll be very honest, being a girl, it is my dream to get married in a, that all not grand scale, but with some pomp and show, because that's my special day. And brides want to feel special on their special day. They want to get married in that lehenga and with their families and get those pictures clicked, because that's a once in a lifetime affair. At least right now we think it's a once in a lifetime affair. So I want to make the most of that. So I don't think any bride or any groom should be judged for that. Those people should be judged, that who judges the groom's family or the bride's family for not arranging things properly. Because see, functions, everyone wants to do their best. And if it doesn't happen, I don't think anyone wants to do it purposely. So I don't think that aspect should be looked down upon, that if you're not spending much, then there's something wrong with you financially. Everyone has their budgets. If the bride and the groom family are happy with their budgets, I think that's their lookout. Even if they're doing it 2000, if they're spending 2000 crore, it's their lookout. I don't think, yeah, ठीक है, चलो, if you're wasting so much food and not, you can argue that you can spend so much on charity, but then who draws the line? You're also judging that rich person, why are you spending so much? So I don't think we all should also become, those guardians of the society, that you should conduct your wedding in this way or this way. Let people do whatever they want. Yeah, but basic decency everyone should have, and try and do some good at a wedding. If you're wanting to do a function, at least try to spend 10% of your wedding in a charity. So what you can do is, whatever money you are collecting from your wedding, like you guys have wedding registry. We have those envelopes in which the bride and the groom receive the blessings of the extended family. You can donate all that money. So try making that big day with try associating with a good cause for your wedding if possible. Maybe do it environmentally friendly wedding or something like that. But as a whole, if you want to have a grand wedding, it's up to you. I don't see any problem with that.
So you don't think that is a waste? You don't see it as a waste. Anybody has any opinion about her opinion?
So what
I
can I mean, yeah. So what
Sure.
I is that even in my personal wedding, everyone from his family wants, 2000 log aaye, and then we should have a grand gala affair. And at the same time, both of us want that, it should be only a close, intimate wedding for us. Because for us, what matters is that people around us, we have our close family and friends. That's all that matters. And I agree to Shreya that, you as a bride have to, you want that you feel special on that one special moment of your life. You want that Din Shagnada moment also. Whenever you see people, you feel like, oh my God.
We can't hear you. You mute.
So, sorry. So, yeah, you do feel that. Uh, you do feel that you also want that moment in your life once and everything. But what I would say is that the spending amount can be reduced, but that is again a personal subjective thing. That if the girl wants to spend too much on her wedding, she should not be judged, and if she wants to spend less, then also she should not be judged, and not just the girl but the family as well. Like the whole, I want the whole norm of this कि लड़के वाले क्या कहेंगे to go away from the society. It's high time that parents should stop worrying that लड़के वाले क्या कहेंगे, हमने तो इतना ही किया, लड़के वाले क्या कहेंगे. This has to really go off, because parents have that trauma in their heads during wedding. कि oh my God, सब अच्छा तो होगा ना, I hope the
Manushi, it's not. It's so. Let me just pivot over there. We're going in a totally different direction here. What we really mean by people doing unrealistic weddings is the influence that it has on the society. You might want the best wedding for yourself, but the influence that you have on having the best wedding for yourself is the expectations that you're setting for others. The grimmest aspect of a culture of overconsumption is the social malaise that you bring with yourself. You are setting the wrong example. You are setting the wrong example for the rest of the society, because now the other people are the example that you're setting for the rest of your community is a standard that you are setting for them. You are thinking that, oh, it's my wedding, I want it this way, I don't care about other people. But what you're really doing is you're creating a standard, you're creating a situation that now other women, other girls in your community also have to do it do what you did because now they have a standard to live up to. Now that is one pressure point that you've created for them and for their families. That is one grim aspect. But then dowries, girls are reduced to just that now. Now you have seriously people in your communities that seriously think that girls are all about being married off, which is a reality even now. This is 2021, but people in Indian communities still think that whatever the girl does, her education, her career, her happiness, it's Ramesh Bhalla 1.0. That is what he thought, and that is what he is. But that is a lot of people in India. This is what they think, that their career, their everything that they do, their happiness is is all dependent on the fact that everything can take a back seat as long as they get married, which is Tej and Devi right there for you. And they feel that getting girls married is the only thing that they need to get done, and everything else can take a back seat, and everything else is not important. And that's how they want to treat women. They want that to happen. And when they have in front of them examples of of women that are getting ostentatiously married, they the ones that cannot afford that ostentatious marriage look at women as financial liabilities, which is what women are treated as ultimately. And that's why either they are killed, or they're thrown away, or they are sold. And or the parents take loans to get them married, and then either commit suicide, or live in debt their entire lives. Now this is a malaise. Expensive weddings is a malaise. You cannot walk away from it by washing your hands and saying, because I want I wanted an expensive wedding, and that's why it's my choice. In a society that has this malaise, you cannot wash your hands off that thing by saying, this is what I want. It's my personal choice. Personal choice doesn't matter whether when an entire community is getting affected by that personal choice. Now, having said that, India's current gender ratio is also driven by this. 112 males to 100 females. You still have selective abortion practices, even though it's illegal. You still have gender imbalances. This is a this is a sin. This is leading to so much more than just that marriage thing. This is all over. Now, having said that, men have a rate card. Dowry is a big deal. Have you seen this happen? Let's start with Supriya. Dowry. What's your experience with dowry?
Yes, I have seen this happen, and I know cases where, on the day of wedding, the parents had to call off the wedding because of the dowries, because of the increase in dowries. I have seen this. I mean, it's happened within my close circles, and I know this because my dad was supposed to travel, but then we get the news: no, the wedding has been called off because the demand for cash is increased, and we cannot afford it. I have seen this happen in my close friends as well, where the dowry has been asked. Now, dowry is asked in very different ways. One, dowry is asked very upfront, where they will say that we want cash, we want this, we want that. But there are very subtle ways of asking it. They will say we don't want dowry, but we want so and so gifts for our family members. So we have like 10 family members. You give us good sarees, you give us good. In my community, it happens. So you give us
Wow.
expecting a sari, a silk sari for so many of these women. I'm expecting a silk dhoti, kurta, and all that stuff for so many of them. Then some silver items as shakun, you give it out, and those things are asked. Those things are bargained, and those things are demanded. So many times the girl side, what they do is they don't even give it to their side because they need to afford that for the male side. So I've seen this bargaining happening, and they ask in a very subtle ways. Then again, it is like a custom also sometimes. So in my close family, they say we have to give it as a custom, so we will give this much money to so and so and so. So then I know my family members, what they did is they collected it, and then they turned it around, and then they gave it back to the bride only, in some form or the other. But so this is also true. I remember my colleague telling me. So many times he just asked that I'm starting and I want to marry, so this is something I want. So then the person invested some money and all. So then he's like, I invested in getting the house and all. Now but then my wife is asking, where is that money? I want that money back because that's my legal. It's like I have invested so much more. So these things also happen. But then, yes, the dowry system is not gone away fully. I know that in my communities, not just mine. So even in the community, the caste also. Like for example, we are, the Kamma community in South. They have very huge dowries and very huge marriage expectations. It goes into crores in Telugu, this thing. And it's very difficult for them because they ask for cash, hard cash, they ask for apartment, and it's
But
very
isn't it illegal? Don't they face the situation that they might go to jail because of that? Have you seen something like that happen, Sumi, in your community?
Actually, not directly. I've not seen anything like that in my family, but I have like heard stories about it. Not directly like that. So what generally, indirectly, they will ask, like as Supriya said, it's like host the marriage function. We don't want anything in cash, but you arrange everything from like suppose if the Bharati is coming from another city, so you give the money for the ticket of every traveler that is coming, you in those indirect ways. So you are not giving cash, but you're spending the thousands of rupees for the groom side to come to your city to have the marriage. You are taking care of the expense of the hotel they are living in, the food they are taking in for like 3 days before the marriage. So these indirect things, so they'll not ask directly for cash. They'll not say I want cash and I want this vehicle. No, it's not like we don't want anything, but these small things, please take care. So this is like this.
What about you, Shreya?
So I have
No.
never faced, in my circle nor in my like that can be because of my age group and my privilege. I agree that can be the case. But coming back to the topic about a grand wedding, you made one point that you can't rub off the responsibility. So the every celeb wedding last year, starting with Virat and Anushka, when they went to Italy all over, from India, and they spent so much on their wedding. They went to then Deepika, then Priyanka. So all these weddings, set those expectations for the pop culture. When Kim Kardashian gets married, and when Kylie Jenner gets those lip fillers, everyone wants those. So pop culture, I agree, plays some part in psychologically in your head, at the back of your mind. But also then there's another aspect that not everyone falls for that. Like people do understand the difference between a reality and people having different, like having privileged background. For example, I'm again giving you example of Mills and Boone. So in Mills and Boone, every girl is falling for a tall, dark, handsome billionaire. I
Bad
read
boy.
those books. Yeah, I read those books, but I know the difference. I can differentiate between reality and fiction. So that is the same case. Like I can understand like where my parents are, where is our financial situation, where to draw the line. So I think most people can understand it. Those who are not doing it, those who are getting into that pressure, that thing will come out only when the society gets that awareness. It's okay if you don't spend at
You,
your wedding.
what my point over here is we're all a part of the society. Every bit
Yeah,
counts. That
true.
is the whole point I'm making.
Yeah,
It's not about one person doing it, people doing it. It's just
yeah,
that we're all part of the society. Every bit
yeah,
counts. Every
yeah,
action counts. And sometimes just one action can trigger a lot of things around us. Can trigger a lot of positive things around us. Just one action counts. For example,
true.
a couple decided that instead of going for the honeymoon, they're going to feed young children. A couple decides
Yeah,
instead of having their own children, they're going to
yeah,
adopt instead of
yeah,
bringing their own child into they could give a home to somebody who doesn't have a home. So little things count if you have the if you have it within you to do it. If you don't
yeah,
have it within you, nothing counts. It's all right. We're not judging
exactly,
people who don't, but what I'm trying to tell
exactly.
you is that there is this entire bigger ecosystem that is very bad for
Yeah,
people. It is not when I took that number of 953 million people, that's a real number. I wasn't making that number up. 953 million people are out there in this situation right now, in poverty right now. And that's a big number. That's almost a billion people in poverty while we're throwing away food. While we're throwing away food. So just that number out there. We're not going back to that question and discussion. We moved on from there. Let's move on here. Okay, we finished that discussion. Now, the third thing that I really, really, really want to talk about in this entire discussion has been, this entire we spoke about all these things. There are these customs that, especially the Hindu marriages, we're not going to talk about the Islamic marriages. We're not going to talk about other religious marriages, but let's talk about several customs within the Hindu marriages that you think are antiquated and that should just be taken off. This entire chart, the entire drama of Hindu marriages. What are the little rituals that you think are so antiquated and old, are so are so not for the day, that should be completely taken off the ritual chart? Let's name them. Let's start with you, Shreya.
I don't believe in touching my groom's feet for seeking his blessing.
Okay,
I
that's
would-
one. Who agrees with her? Let's go round table on each one of these. Who agrees? Touching feet of husband. Raise your
Yeah,
hands.
not-
I agree.
You agree not touching? You want to touch feet?
No, I'm
I
saying
not
कि-
touching.
Nobody wants to touch feet. They're not gods. They're equals, right? Perfect. Right. Okay. Second one, Shreya.
second one, I feel when all the ladies come and whisper that like whisper the blessing, like I think that yeah, it's just that they're whispering. I think they should say it out loud for everyone to hear that what is the wisdom that they're imparting to the bride.
Why do
Like,
they
that-
whisper it, by the way? What's the reason they whisper it?
I have no idea. I think there's a costume where they whisper the blessing in your ear rather than saying it out loud, and I find that very surprising. I was like, why you can say it out loud? Why? What is it the big deal if anyone else
नजर
hears
लग
it?
जाती है नजर लग जाती है they say
I
that
just
if you
really
say your
hurt.
wishes out loud तो नजर लग जाती है, which is why they go and whisper the wishes in the bride or groom's ear, which is the logic they give, like the logic that I know of at least.
Okay, Manushi, your custom. Which one do you want gone?
Okay. I really want this custom to go off, that in my own wedding itself, that जो जिनके खाने में जिनके weddings में खाना खाए उनको बुलाना पड़ेगा, that vicious cycle कि इसके wedding में गए थे इसको बुलाना पड़ेगा, इसके बेटे के wedding में गए थे कि इसको भी बुलाना पड़ेगा. ऐसे तो you will have a barati of people and you can't keep calling everyone. And I really want my in-laws to break that system because they are like कि हमारे मेरे wedding में there'll be like 2000 people क्योंकि हमने इनकी शादी में गए थे. And I told my mother-in-law कि हम क्यों बुलाए उनको. So she told me कि we have to call them because कैसा लगेगा if we don't call them. So this system has to go off like completely off the grid. Like I really want that to go off. And
I'm
the
glad
other
you came for my wedding, but I don't feel like inviting you. Like, I don't feel like coming for yours. That kind of shit. Okay. All right. Great. Fantastic. So Priya, which customs do you want gone?
So there are several of them. One is the Kanyadan.
Oh yes, I'm all for it. All my hands are up for this Kanyadan thing. Who else agrees with that? Kanyadan.
what Kanyadan, but I mean I didn't get it. Ke, what do you want it
As
to
a
go?
custom, you want Kanyadan gone. You don't want Kanyadan to happen.
I find it's okay. It's a symbolic thing now. Anyone is not donating their daughter anymore.
Are you some property that somebody's giving you away?
Yes.
It is symbolic of the days when girls were treated like property. That they were going. You were owned by your father, and you were going to be given away to another man as it is symbolic of those days when women were property.
I want to give an example here. So when my grandma passed away, Okay, the Panditji was forcing my parents to get me married off simply because they said that it will be good for my grandma, that she will attain heaven if you do Kanyadan, because my dad was the oldest in the family. And he was like insisting that you do Kanyadan, not just for grandmother's soul, but also for the fact that when you pass away, who will cremate you? And it was, my parents were aghast, and my parents were like, no, we don't believe in this, and I don't believe in Kanyadan concept because my daughter is not my property. So I am not going to get her married off just simply because you feel that my grandmother's soul will be cleansed. And it's a very this thing and
It's
very
a very sexist and archaic concept. The whole concept is that the father is giving the daughter to the other man, saying that, and the other man accepts the daughter, saying that I will take care of her food and needs. It's that archaic and that sexist a concept where, and the entire concept of marriage emanated with property, right? The entire concept of marriage started with the concept of property, property transfers. So when women had, they had property or they started inheriting, how would the man that they would get married to take that property from them? Was through marriage. And so that's how the transfer of property, I mean, that's how the entire concept matter started in Victorian times. So this is how this would happen. They would embark upon this journey where the ownership of the women would transfer from one man to another through this process of kanyadan. It's so archaic. It's scary archaic. But yeah, I agree with you. On Kanyadan, all hands up. It would want that entire concept to disappear from Hindu marriages. The Kanyadan is the worst concept ever.
that is one, and there are several other customs we have.
I also want Bidai to go because hey, why are you even saying bye to it's your home? Why are you Bidai? You're not leaving your home. It's still your home. Why are you even doing that entire drama of Bidai? Because you're never going to ever leave your parents' home. Why you even have a ceremony of Bidai that used to belong to times when women were not supposed to go back to their homes? When when women were supposed to cut off ties with their own parents. You don't do that. Why are you symbolically doing this Bidai thing when you're never going to cut ties with your parents because you're going to have two sets of homes? Your husband is going to have two sets of homes. You're going to have two sets of homes. If you're never going to Bidai, you're never going to sever ties. Why are you doing that entire Bidai thing? Don't do it. This should not be Bidai because you're not Bidaiing. You're always going to have that home as your home. You're never going to leave your own home.
I
But the
think
Bidai,
concept started because earlier days. So I know my mom tells me. So we have two things. One, we welcome the groom's family because they come from villages. So let's say you're in one village and there is a distant village. The groom's family comes in, so you welcome them, and then the girl also is going to another village. It's not like she's going to another place in the same village. So then they send, so Pidai. So in our custom, what we do is we send the girl with a lot of food items because they're traveling a lot. They're traveling a long distance, so they pack up a lot of things for their travel, and that is how this custom has been developed. Because originally they used to travel a lot across villages and towns. But as you said, now maybe it may not be so relevant because you are just going from one house to another house in the same city, which is hardly 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But this concept started because there was inter villages or inter towns marriage, and so people had to equip the girls and the groom's family so that they can carry through the travel because they go in full of carts and all. So the transport system is also not that amazing. That is where I think it originated from.
So I think there are other few customs that I would want to bring up here. I would definitely want to look at the signs of marriage. Why does the woman have to wear all the signs of marriage? What about the man? I mean, she has to wear the Mangal Sutra and the Sindoor, and why isn't the man wearing a Mangal Sutra and the Sindoor too? I mean, why only the woman has to have the signs, and why not the man? I don't get that thing in India. I don't get washing of the feet of the son-in-law and all that stuff. I really don't get that. I also don't get. I also don't get this entire concept of changing of the name. I'm not a huge believer. This entire Anoki Shore Sabharwal is very romantic, but hey, she's Anoki Bhala. That's her identity. And all of a sudden, you just call her Anoki Shore Sabharwal, and it sounds very romantic. I know it sounds romantic. It's very romantic. But she's Anoki Bhala. You didn't ask her permission to change her name. She's fine by it, but I wouldn't be. You know what I mean? But having said that, we're going to wrap up. This was an amazing discussion so far. The thing that I want to really wrap up saying here is this entire thing that happened in the last episode, where he gives her a pen and he asks her to go and take her exam. Our review was that this is so normalized. This is how it ought to be. But we're so conditioned to watching serials and victim women, middle class victim women that we've already discussed, who do not have these rights in serials, that seeing a normal relationship of equals is really giving us the thrills. So let's not get hyped over this. This is normal. This is how a normal relationship should be and is in a relationship of equals. And this should not be hyped. This is the way it should be, and we should expect this out of partners. For real. You want to say something closing? Let's just close then. Shreya, you want to get started?
Okay. So my whole thing was that I'm really glad Anoki, thought to share her dilemma with Shaurya and, not try to be hero herself. I mean, that's how real relationship works. That, you share your problems with your partner, and she finally had that trust in Shaurya that, he'll support her. And, that took a long time and long journey for them to reach that point. So finally that paid off. And you're right, this is really normal nowadays. Like we have, like, after this show, people have started posting pictures of, brides taking exam on their wedding days. I'm like,
They do,
yeah,
and it's
that,
normal.
yeah,
It's only in ITV the victim women don't get their rights. Otherwise, the women have their rights. It's fine. I don't know a single guy who would tell a girl, "No, don't take your exam. Marry me
Yeah.
first." I mean, who would do that? Which guy
Yeah,
in his right mind would be respected if he does that?
yeah, exactly. I don't think there is anything like that happening anymore. But okay, chalo, if they're doing it, they did it, show it realistically, which I really admire. That, if they're calculating the time for fairas and time for, reaching the center and time for writing the exam, which is which is good eye for detail. I enjoyed that part, and everyone wishing her good luck. So yeah, that was pretty normal. But now I think we have to normalize it further. Like, more shows and more, pop culture need to show this. For this is very normal for me and you, I guess, but for many in the villages or, small town, this might be a big deal. Like the whole lecture Anoki gave in her exam center about, stop judging her because she's wearing a wedding dress. I was like, I don't know, it was too
Why are
on
you even
the
wasting
nose.
your time?
Yeah, too on the nose for me. Because I was like, yeah, when paper licks, tere paas time nahi,
Time
you have a
can't
time
pass.
limit. You have a time limit.
like
You-
why do so this is what I don't get about these series. वो preachy क्यों हो जाती है बीच में? She gets this, that, remember that thing when Vineet is trying to hit Bubbly and this guy is holding her hand. There's a lecture over there as well. Why are you getting preachy, dude? Then stop the preachy lectures. Do your thing. Like, be normal. Anyway, Sumi, you want to say something? Let's wrap up.
Yeah, actually this show has always, highlighted that, like, how things are supposed to be and how people in ITV world especially. So this show kind of sometimes, literally mocks the ITV routine. Like, even today, Shaurya said the right thing, but if you see Papa Bhalla's reaction, he was like, I am okay with you leaving for exam if Shaurya is okay. So they also highlighted on the side of the man, like, he's okay only. Suppose if the groom says, no, I will not let you give the exam, he would have asked Anoki to stay for the marriage. He would not have let her go, because
Property. अब तो आप ही इसके सब कुछ हो. What property
I
business
mean,
is this?
if the groom says yes, the bride should go and give exam. If the groom says no, then she should not go for the exam, and she should sit in the mandap for shadi. So they show both aspects of society. I've always, I really admire this quality of this show. For every Anokhi there is a bubbly, and vice versa, and for every Shaurya there is Mr. Bhalla, vice versa, throughout the show. And this is something I really admire and respect. So you're right, this is very normal, and I think we have to praise it that they got it on ITV, because ITV does not really understand this
Concept.
this narrative. Yes, they don't understand. So kudos to the makers for getting it. But now we should be like, if you don't show this, then you are showing nonsense.
This has substandard, definitely.
Yes,
Totally. Supriya, want to give your bit, and then Manushi, and let's close, guys. We're out of time.
Yeah, definitely. So I agree with both Shreya and Sumi on this thing that it has to be normalized, and it is definitely the consent of both the partners involved, and it is what the partners want. I also wanted to add to one more point that when we are planning our weddings, we also should ensure no kind of wastage, both environmentally and food. Because I remember big celebrity weddings, they really devastated the environment around them, especially in areas like Rishikesh and all, which is not warranted. So that I definitely am opposing. So my request will be that we should pay heed to the wastage, not just in food and overconsumption, but also environmentally, which is also
Great, fantastic. Manushi, you want to close this one?
Yeah, so I think, today I saw tweets like, oh my God, Anokhi is so lucky that she got Shaurya. So I was like, guys, it's just a normal thing. I mean, stop just, glorifying Shaurya that, oh my God, Anokhi got a Hira, oh my God, this, that. Because Anokhi is equally lucky and Shaurya is equally lucky. It's like a both win-win situation from both ends, that both of them are lucky to have each other. And the fact that I loved today was that, the parallels that these people draw. That Shaurya was the one who mocked her in the promos. Like we saw that, Shadi ke jode mein tum exam ke liye jaoge. And today he was only giving her the pen. That time that was a barrier for her. And the same thing today became a ladder for her. So, the whole contrast that has been played. And the funniest part is that I would want to highlight is Shagun, Devi, and Tej were like, oh shit, we didn't see this coming. And I really enjoyed that reaction, because none of them know that Shaurya is a changed person now, and he's Anokhi's Shaurya, like I would want to say. He's not the same misogynist like Shreya said. In the beginning he was like that. So I think it's been really interesting. Tej will be alarmed that, oh my God. And like we see that Shaurya is going to shift the whole Shadi to SISC, the same place where they started their journey, the whole journey that started for Shaki. So it's going to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to the Shaki wedding. Like, can't wait for Monday.
Wonderful. Well, this was an interesting discussion to have. And there are so many things that came out of this discussion. Well, we hope that next week is definitely going to be interesting. All your favorite scenes coming up, lots of romance. I know all of you guys are excited. And of course, we'll get other stuff to discuss now. We get the acrimonious stuff coming up soon. And of course, all the villains will be back in the story too. So I look forward to talking with you over the week again. And of course, having you back in our studios, recording again next Saturday. And would love to discuss more of this as well, because hey, we haven't finished this discussion on marriages yet. We just did part of it, because this is big. This is not small. Well, having said that, lovely having you guys here. Take care and see you next week. Bye.